From UFOs to psychic powers and government conspiracies, history is riddled with unexplained events. You can turn back now or learn the stuff they don't want you to know.
Our final story in this week's segment takes us to the far north, literally as far north as you can go and still be on planet Earth. Folks, as we record today, the race for the Arctic continues. We did a previous episode on this, who will control the Arctic. Long story short, for a number of decades now, the ice caps in the North Pole have been melting. I'm sure you have seen many think pieces, many studies, many news stories on the various terrible consequences of the ice caps melting. But there is one group of huge benefits, and it may even, in some way, depending on where you live, benefit you. When those ice caps melt, when the water unfreezes and becomes navigable for ships, there is an entirely new, unique trade route available. So it goes back to what we were talking about previously with the strange shell game of international trade. Essentially, all the like if you imagine in your mind a map of the North Pole, all the countries that are around the Arctic Circle, and even countries that don't really have a geophysical claim to it, they're all trying to slice out the pie and be the person or be the entity that controls the trade routes, right? And be the entity that also controls the mining rights for minerals, for fossil fuels, and what have you. Right now, a lot of people are incredibly nervous because the Russian military, which I think we may have talked about this before, they've been going hard on the paint to have this access for a long time. And you know, they have a decent claim, because if you look at the map, a ton of Russia butts right into the North Pole, or the Arctic Circle, we should say. So a lot of international observers are incredibly nervous because it turns out that Russia has doubled down on their military buildup in the Arctic, and they've done some things that they haven't done before. First off, because of the nature of the climate in Russia and the Arctic Circle, they already had a lot of infrastructure that was set to function pretty well in the Arctic North. However, the issue is that they had a lot of, just like with the U.S. infrastructure, they had a lot of infrastructure problems. They weren't maintaining things the way they needed to be maintained. But for the record, if you're feeling adventurous, you can take a ride on a Russian icebreaker, nuclear powered. It's called the 50 Let Pobedy, which means 50 years of victory. Anyway, that aside, they're building this massive agglomeration of military might, which is an intimidation move, but also it's kind of trying to be the first to the gate in a world where possession is very much 9/10 of the law. This has happened before. Russia has been planning this for a long time. These kinds of explorations have occurred. You may in fact, fellow conspiracy realists, recall a moment several years ago when Russia planted an underwater flag as like the old school colonialism, right? I got a flag, I put it here, this is mine, dibs on this entire continent or this entire mass. But what's different now is that they have a new toy, a very dangerous toy. It's called the Poseidon 2M39 Torpedo. I'd like to talk a little bit about what the Poseidon is. It's autonomous, unmanned, it's nuclear powered, it's called a super weapon. And honestly, although I usually think that kind of stuff is hyperbole, guys, this is very much not. It's about the size of a small submarine. And the idea is that it'll be used against hostile bases or naval stations. So the problem with the Poseidon is that it is quite potentially capable of rendering an entire area unlivable. I'm gonna send you guys. It's like using a chainsaw when a steak knife would do. I'm gonna send you guys a picture here in our group chat where you can see something called a nuke map. The Poseidon is capable of creating a 100 megaton explosion. And if you look at this map, nuke map, by the way, is a really cool tool, then you can model out the detonation of what would happen, like how this bomb with this yield, how it would affect the world. So if you look at the map now, you'll see just from that screen cap that we wanted to see what happened if the Poseidon somehow was deployed in New York. The fallout goes clear to the Gulf Coast.
Jeez.
Which is
holy shit wow.
Yeah.
So that's rain.
Yeah. Oh, I see. So it's because of all the water. It's probably like. I see.
Yeah, radioactive rain and fallout, essentially. Yeah, that's pretty messed up. Wow.
It also irradiates the water. So we're talking, if this thing was ever used, it would quite likely create radioactive tsunamis.
That's the yield of these Poseidon torpedoes?
Yeah, it's they're believed to, we don't know everything about them. They're one of 6 super weapons that were proposed by the Russian administration in 2018. This Poseidon is what's called a Cobalt Bomb. And, there's a tragic story here. There's always a tragic story when you talk about nuclear weaponry and physicists. But the physicist who first proposed the idea of a Cobalt Bomb literally said, look, I'm not showing you all that this is possible because anyone should build one. I'm showing you that we're getting to the point where nuclear technology can quite literally end human life on Earth. This should be considered a doomsday device. And then, shout out to that great Mitchell and Webb sketch about the inventor who keeps trying to make peaceful weapons of war. The problem here is that these sorts of weapons, they don't respect international boundaries. You know what I mean? They don't go through customs. If you fire this at a naval base, it's not going to stop at the perimeter of the naval base. This will have real and lasting implications. We're talking about the nuclear equivalent of sowing the earth with salt. It will render large swaths of any shoreline nearby unlivable, like Fukushima level unlivable. What this means, first off, is that it's scary to imagine the situation where the Russian government might decide to deploy this weaponry. It also means, I'm going to sneak one other thing in here before we close. It also means that it's a perfect toy for Vladimir Putin's administration because he just signed that law I told you guys about a few months ago.
Remind me?
Where he could be president forever.
That's right. Okay. Sorry. I thought that's what you're referring to. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, sorry. Any Russian president.
Correct.
And just any Russian president.
Oh, we know what you were up to, Vladimir.
So this means that he quite possibly, if no health conditions or assassins or accidents cross his path, he could become the ruler in office for the longest time since Joseph Stalin. So it's a little more difficult to imagine something that would disincentivize him. Like if domestic Russian opinion said, hey, don't put out this bomb that literally will take parts of continents off the map, then he could say, well, so what are you going to not elect me? It's very dangerous for your health.
Very. Oh, man. Yeah, this sounds terrifying all around, Ben.
Yeah, which is a shame because I still really want to ride on that icebreaker. And this is where I want to pass the torch or pass the question to you, our fellow listeners in the audience. What direction do you see things going in here? What's the long-term goal of Russia? What should the long-term goal of the rest of the world be? And is losing the North Pole and the ice there, is it worth gaining this trade route over the long term? I would argue probably not. And if you'd like to learn more about the ins and outs of Russia in the Arctic, which I'm telling you folks, it's an important story that should be more widely reported at the moment. Please do check out some works by the Carnegie Endowment. Please do also check out some of the excellent reporting over at Haaretz and The Guardian as well.